Hi, readers, and welcome back to Bible in a Year Live Chronological Project. This is week 32, day 2. My name is Natasha, and I'll be guiding you through the readings of 2 Chronicles chapter 32 to 33 from the Complete Jewish Bible. Let's dive in. Chapter 32. After these events and this faithfulness of Yizkiyahu's Sancheriv's king of Ashur came, invaded Yehuda, and besieged the fortified cities, thinking that he would break in and capture them. When Yizkiyahu saw that Sancheriv had come and intended to attack Yerushalayim, he consulted his leading men and military advisors about sealing off the water in the springs outside the city. After gaining their support, a large crowd was gathered to block all the springs and the stream flowing through the countryside. They reasoned, why should the kings of Ashur come and find an ample supply of water? Then, taking courage, he rebuilt all the broken sections of the wall, raised towers on it, built another wall outside that, strengthened the Miyu in the city of David, and made a large quantity of spears and shields. He appointed military commanders over the people, then gathered them before him in the open space at the city gate, and spoke these words of encouragement to them. Be strong, take courage. Don't be afraid or distressed on account of the king of Ashur, or all the horde he brings with him. For the one with us is greater than the one with him. He has human strength, but we have Adonai, our God, to help us and fight our battles. The people took heart at the words of Hiskiyahu, king of Yehuda. After this, while Sennacherib and all his army were besieging Lachish, he sent his envoys to Jerusalem, to Hiskiyahu, king of Yehuda, and to all Yehuda who were there in Jerusalem with this message. This is what Sennacherib, king of Ashur, says. What gives you the confidence that you can endure a siege against Jerusalem? Hasn't Hiskiyahu deluded you? Isn't he condemning you to death by starvation and thirst when he says, Adonai our God will save us from the king of Ashur? Isn't this the same Hiskiyahu who removed your gods' high places and altars and ordered Yehuda and Jerusalem to worship before one altar and offer sacrifice only on it? Don't you realize what I and my ancestors have done to all the peoples of the other countries? Were the gods of these nations able to do a thing to rescue their country from me? Who, of all the gods of those nations that my ancestors completely destroyed, were able to rescue his people from me? How then will your God rescue you from me? Don't let Hiskiyahu mislead you or delude you this way. Don't believe him, for no God of any nation or kingdom has ever been able to rescue his people from me or my ancestors. How much less will your God rescue you from me? His envoys kept on speaking against Adonai God and against his servant Hiskiyahu. He also wrote a letter insulting Adonai, the God of Israel, and speaking against him. It said, just as the gods of the nations of the other countries could not rescue their people from me, likewise Hiskiyahu's God will not rescue his people from me. They were shouting loudly in the language of the Judeans to the people of Jerusalem, who were on the wall in order to terrify them and make them fearful, so that they could capture the city. They spoke about the God of Jerusalem in the same way as about the gods of the other peoples of the earth, which are merely human artifacts. Because of this, Hiskiyahu the king and the Yeshayahu the prophet, the son of Amatz, prayed and cried out to heaven. Then Adonai sent an angel who cut down the valiant warriors, the leaders, and the officers in the king of Ashur's camp, so that he had to return shamefaced to his own country. When he entered the house of his God, his own sons, who he himself had fathered, put him to death with the sword there. In this way, Adonai rescued Hiskiyahu and those living in Jerusalem from Sancheriv, the king of Ashur, and from everyone caring for them in every respect. Many people brought gifts to Adonai in Jerusalem and items of value to Hiskiyahu, king of Yehuda, so that from then on he was regarded highly by all the nations. Around this time, Hiskiyahu became ill to the point of death, but he prayed to Adonai, who answered him, even giving him a sign. However, Hiskiyahu did not respond commensurately with the benefit done for him, because he had grown proud. Thus he brought anger on himself and on Yehuda and Jerusalem as well. But Hiskiyahu then humbled himself for his pride, both he and the people living in Jerusalem, so that Adonai's anger did not strike them during Hiskiyahu's lifetime. Hiskiyahu had vast riches and great honor. He provided himself with storage places for silver, gold, precious stones, spices, shields, and all kind of valuable articles. Also, storehouses for the harvests of grain, wine, and olive oil, and stalls for all kinds of livestock, and pens for the flocks. He provided cities for himself and purchased flocks and herds in abundance, for God had made him extremely wealthy. It was this same Hiskiyahu who blocked the upper outlet of the Gishon spring and diverted water straight down on the west side of the city of David. Hiskiyahu succeeded in all that he did. However, in the matter of the ambassadors from the princes of BIAYL, who sent to him to learn of the marvel that had taken place in the land, God left him by himself in order to test him, so that he might know everything that was in his heart. Other activities of Hiskiyahu and his good deeds are recorded in the vision of Yeshayahu, the prophet, the son of Ametz, and in the annals of the kings of Yehuda and Israel. Then Hiskiyahu slept with his ancestors, and they buried him by the path leading up to the tombs of the descendants of David. All Yehuda and the people living in Jerusalem honored him when he died, after which Manasseh, his son, took his place as king. Chapter 33. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began his reign, and he ruled for 55 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil from Adonai's perspective, following the disgusting practices of the nations whom Adonai had expelled ahead of the people of Israel. For he rebuilt the high places which Hiskiyahu his father had smashed. He erected altars for the Baalim, made sacred poles, and worshiped all the army of heaven and served them. He erected altars in the house of Adonai, concerning which Adonai had said, "My name will be in Jerusalem forever." He erected altars for all the army of heaven in the two courtyards of the house of Adonai. He made his children pass through the fire as a sacrifice in the Ben Hinnom Valley. He practiced soothsaying, divination, and sorcery. He appointed mediums and persons who used spirit guides. He did much that was evil from Adonai's perspective, thus provoking him to anger. He set the carved image of the idol he made in the house of God, concerning which God had told David and Shlomo his son, "In this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, I will put my name forever. Also, I will not remove the feet of Israel from the land I assigned your ancestors, if only they will take heed to obey every order I have given them. That is, all the Torah, laws, and rulings that came through Moshe." Manasseh caused Yehuda and the people of Jerusalem to go astray, so that they did even worse things than the nations whom Adonai destroyed ahead of the people of Israel. Adonai spoke to Manasseh and to his people, but they paid no attention. Therefore Adonai brought against them the commanders of the king of Assur's army. They took Manasseh captive with hooks, bound him in chains, and carried him off to Bevel. Then, when he was in distress, he began to appease the anger of Adonai, abjectly humbling himself before the God of his ancestors. He prayed to him, and God was moved by his plea, paid attention to his entreaty, and brought him back to Jerusalem, to his kingly office. Then Manasseh understood that Adonai really is God. After this, he built an outer wall for the city of David on the west side of Gishon, in the valley, extending as far as the entrance at the fish gate. It encompassed the Ophel, and he built it very high. He stationed army commanders in all the fortified cities of Yehuda. He removed the foreign gods and the idol from the house of Adonai, and all the altars he had built on the hill of the house of Adonai and in Jerusalem, and threw them out of the city. He repaired the altar of Adonai and offered on it sacrifices as peace offerings and for thanksgiving. He ordered Yehuda to serve Adonai, the God of Israel. However, the people continued sacrificing on the high places, although only to Adonai their God. Other activities of Manasseh, his prayer to his God, and the words of the seers who spoke to him in the name of Adonai, the God of Israel, are recorded in the annals of the kings of Israel. Also his prayer and how God was moved by his plea, all his sin and disloyalty, and the locations where he built high places and set up the sacred poles and carved images before he humbled himself are written in the history of the seers. Then Manasseh slept with his elders and was buried at his own house, and Amon, his son, took his place as king. Amon was 22 years old when he began his reign, and he ruled for 2 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil from Adonai's perspective, as had Manasseh his father. Amon sacrificed to all the carved images that Manasseh his father had made, and served them. He did not humble himself before Adonai, as Manasseh his father had done. Rather, this Amon kept adding to his guilt. His servant conspired against him and put the king to death in his own palace. But the people of the land put to death all those who had been part of the conspiracy against King Ammon. Then the people of the land made Yashiyahu, his son, king in place of him. This concludes today's reading of the Lord. Amen. I thank you for joining today's reading. You're invited to our weekly discussions, which take place on Sundays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The details for that is in the description below or by visiting our website at BIAYL project.com. Blessings, and we'll see you again here tomorrow.